Hi folks, I'm Shawn.
And I'm Corinne.
And welcome back to the Travels of Red Rover.
Today we are in Alabama Hills, just west of Death Valley.
We're out here to do a little photography. We came out to do some sunset and sunrise photography, although our first night here we got completely clouded out. So hopefully tonight we'll be able to have a little bit more better luck.
Yes, so we're doing some sunset tonight, and hopefully in the morning we'll get a little bit of sunrise to show you.
Corinne and I are out in the Alabama Hills on a really windy afternoon. We're trying to take some shots of the major features behind me here. Just up there, they're probably a little bit overexposed right now, so they'll be up that way. The real challenge is that we're trying to shoot a little bit too early because the clouds have been coming in, and last night the cloud snuffed out all the good light, so we're trying to get a few shots in before the cloud disappears. So we're letting the light play on the rocks in the background there. It's being filtered through a series of clouds, and the bowl has been lit for a while, and we're now just sort of waiting to see what will happen in the foreground here. It's a very simple shot. All I'm using is the boulders that are in the front to line up the Mount Whitney in the background there. And I'm hoping that as the light changes, Mount Whitney will continue to stay lit up, and the various boulders in the foreground will get lit up as well.
Well, we've gotten set up for sunset, and it's a little cloudy over there by the mountains. So we're not sure if we're going to get a little sun breakthrough just as the sun dips lower closer to the sunset time. Shawn's working on another composition a little distance away from me, and I've climbed up on some rocks to get a little elevation and try a shot looking towards the Alabama Hills. The sun's going to set behind the mountains, so they'll be somewhat shadowed as we get approaching sunset time. Hopefully we'll get the light we want and maybe a little color in those remaining clouds. Well, this is the direction I'm facing for my photo tonight, and you can see a very large peak there in the distance, and to the foreground I have some of these rounded rocks that are typical of Alabama Hills. And over to the west, northwest a little bit more, the sun's going to set over where that light patch is. So it's a little north of where my peaks are that I'm framing up. We've gotten some pretty interesting clouds above the mountains in the distance. Right close to the silhouette of the mountains, the top edge, the clouds are a lot thinner and more white oriented, and the clouds further up are darker, more stormy looking, and that is a little bit accentuated when I add in a two-stop neutral density graduated filter on my camera. So my foreground's a little brighter here in my picture, and you can see the clouds over the mountains look a little bit more stormy. So as I was working on my other composition, looking a little bit more directly to the west-southwest, I noticed that the sunset, slightly more west-northwest, was maybe giving just a slight bit of color over the mountain. So I decided to change my composition, move to a new spot, and try something that might generate a little color.
So I'm out doing a little reconnoitering for various spots. I think I'm going to shoot from up there and use the little bit of rocks that are over there to frame Mount Whitney, but I'll say more about that in a minute. Right now I just realized I walked all the way out here and forgot my filters, so walking back to the truck to get the filters. So I managed to go back and get my filters, so I'm now walking back out. The sun has completely gone down behind the mountains, behind the Sierras, and we're now going to have to wait for a little while to see if we get any of that light to bounce back up onto the clouds above Mount Whitney. Got my fingers crossed, although it hasn't been all that successful trip in terms of getting good colorful sunset light. So anyway, we'll have to see how it goes. I have about 20 minutes to wait. It'll give me a chance to decide if I really want the spot that I'm shooting from. It's pretty high risk. If we don't get any good light, then it's not going to be a very good shot. If we get some really nice light, then with the rocks giving a bit of a frame to the shot, then it should look pretty good. So right now everything's pretty flat, and what I've decided to do is just take a nice black and white shot of this. I love the way the layers of rocks are kind of laying out on the image, and we'll have to see if this looks as good in black and white on the back of my screen as it were on in a photograph in the computer as it does on the back of my screen. So I'm going to take that shot, and we'll just have to see how that comes out. Okay, so while I wait for the light to show up, I've got the camera set up for aperture priority, f11, ISO 100. I've got my exposure compensation turned up a little bit. I'm shooting at about 6,000 Kelvin right now, and I might take that up a little bit. We'll have to see what the light does. But otherwise I'm more or less ready and just have to wait for the shot. As I was getting set up for the shot of Mount Whitney, right behind me, the little hills on the other side of the valley of the Alabama hills started to light up, and it produced a nice little opportunity for a nice little golden hour shot. Nothing particularly special, but just interesting rocks and nice light on that far hill. I think it could be just a lovely shot. So generally speaking, I shoot almost all of my shots on a 3:2 format. However, occasionally I will, when I've got lots of time and I'm waiting for light, I will often play around and see if I like other types of cropping. This is primarily so that when I get back home and decide to actually do the editing, I can decide if I really like it or not. And in this case I got a very nice square crop on here, and I quite like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see this photograph when it gets processed in a nice square crop. So Corinne and I left from Vegas on the first part of our two-part summer trips. This set is going to be up to the Oregon coast to do some coastal shooting, and hopefully we're going to do a little bit of redwood shooting, and may even get ourselves over to the Painted Hills. Might also get to the gorge, and then we have to come back to Las Vegas so that Corinne can get her second COVID vaccine, and then the two of us are off to the Black Hills of South Dakota, and we're going to meet up with a fellow YouTuber, and we'll have a little more to say about that in a little while. Well, I'm still waiting for sunset, but I have to say the clouds are looking a lot better than they did last night, so I really do have my hopes up. They're much less dense than they were when we tried this last night. In fact, last night was so bad we didn't even bother filming it. And hopefully here we're gonna get some good light back here on these clouds, so as the evening comes on, but another 20 minutes yet. So at this point it's all about keeping our fingers crossed. There's a Red Rover down in our camp spot. So when we got here there were only 2 people. There are now 1, 2, 3, 4 in that area. And then just down the road there's one behind that truck, and then just a little further down the road here is another big RV. He's actually over on the other road, and then a little Ford truck down there. Well, we have another photographer out here tonight, trying to do the same thing we're doing. We're getting some pretty cool wispy clouds up there that are actually kind of a little bit dramatic. I've actually added a couple soft edge filters to darken up the sky just above the mountain a little bit. I'll show you what I've done. There we go. And as you can see, it really gives a nice dramatic effect at the top of the sorry, I tipped over on the top of the mountain there. So I'm going to take a couple of those shots while I'm waiting for the light to come in. Well, I always find the last 10 or 15 minutes waiting for the light to actually come in and sunset to actually happen always the most difficult. We're probably only 10 minutes away or less, but here I am, and I'm kind of a little bored and just trying to twiddle my thumbs while I wait for the good light to come. Although I have to say, one of the things I have done tonight that's a little different is that I have been looking for some secondary compositions, because the light over that way, and the light over that way could end up being better than the light we have here tonight. So I've got some other opportunities if this should end up being a bit of a bust. We've been getting little splotches of color. Sunset is 7:29 and it's 7:25 at this point. Unfortunately, the clouds look like they're getting more and more dense, so I'm not sure we're going to actually get any more color. We did get a couple shots with a little tiny bit of pink outlining the tops of the mountain there. We'll just have to wait a few more minutes and see if we're again rewarded with another shot. So I had to run down to one of my alternate compositions, which is this large rock pile. I love just the way the rocks stick up in the rock pile. Turns out that the pinky color turned out to be in around about here, just at the top of these pink clouds, and that turned out to be quite lovely. Unfortunately, my Mount Whitney picture looks like it has just faded out.
Well, we're getting some really nice light on the Sierra Nevadas this morning, quite pink looking, and no clouds at all this morning compared to what we had last night. We took a few minutes, got all our equipment set up before we took some time to show you what's going on. We took our time having a coffee this morning before coming out, and it made that we were having to get lickety split on the camera gear when we got out here. Shawn's working next to me today.
Doesn't get any better than this. Perfect morning.
Well, Shawn, how did it work out for you this morning?
Well, the wonderful thing is that we actually got the shot that we were after. Mount Whitney lit up perfectly in its little basin up there with this absolutely beautiful pink glowy light, which we just love to catch on the top of the mountain.
And the weather conditions?
Well, other than it's getting a little windy again, it seems to be chasing us around lately. Almost a perfect morning weather-wise. I mean, it's in the high 40s, clear, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful day.
Well, that about wraps up our session here at Alabama Hills. It was short, but we have
sweet.
It was sweet. We have some other locations we want to get to this week, so we're going to be hitting the road today.
We had a great time this morning. It's nothing like when a plan comes together, which for us lately has just not been happening. So it was a great morning to be out shooting, and we had a great time.
So thanks for joining us.
If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up.
If you'd like to see more of our videos, I hope you'll consider subscribing.
Down there. And as always, if you want to know when we release a video, hit that bell button.
And we love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment or question in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to respond to you very promptly.
Again, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and bye for now.
Bye for now.